I don't think there's been any topic that has been more polarizing since I've started this show. I started this show Valentine's Day 2020. So right as the COVID pandemic was starting, I was starting this show, me, Levita Sparks Wade, Kathy Kelly, Johnny Rucker. We were starting that show right as the pandemic was starting. And over the course of the pandemic, you know, again, you guys know I love to research into things and dig deep into things. And it became a very polarizing issue, especially once the vaccine came out. And I know I had a lot of wars with a lot of you here on this topic. Lots of people, medical professionals and other people couldn't wait to race out to yell at about things I'd said here on the station. But again, I'm always somebody who looks at data. I'm a data fanatic. I love data, always have been. And I just looked at how the rest of the world was faring, as I'm prone to do. And it became very apparent that a lot of people were willing to give away their rights and liberties and freedoms when the pandemic started and when the vaccine came out, because they were so afraid and they just wanted to get back to normal, and they were just willing to do whatever people who claimed to have their best interests in mind were saying or telling them to do, basically. Well, a lot of laws and a lot of rights were trampled on when the vaccine came out. We talked about it here. People weren't allowed to get transplants. Parents lost custody of their children if they refused to be vaccinated. Lots of people lost their jobs. Up until last year, I mean, you guys know, if you watch the streams regularly, I was wearing a mask, even though, again, wearing a mask and the vaccine really didn't stop the spread, but I was forced to wear a mask because because I refused to get the vaccine. And so now what we're seeing is sort of the echo of that. The lawsuits, the COVID lawsuits have started. This is something I knew would happen eventually, but here we are. Starting in New York, the New York Supreme Court has reinstated all of their employees that they fired for being vaccinated. The state of New York fired a lot of people who refused to get vaccinated. Well, now a New York State Supreme Court has ordered all New York City employees who were fired for not being vaccinated to be reinstated with pay. So not only do they have to get their jobs back, they have to be paid for all the money they lost from not having their jobs. The court found that being vaccinated does not prevent an individual from contracting or transmitting COVID-19. Now, again, when I was saying that in 2021, a lot of people called this station, including a lot of supposed medical professionals, called the station to say I was spreading Russian disinformation or something. But no, I was not doing that. I was looking at the data from Israel, from all of Western Europe, from places here. I was looking at the NBA, where all the players were forced to be vaccinated, and yet there was still huge outbreaks. I was looking at the NFL, all these places. The sports leagues actually were the best case study, because these people were living in bubbles where everybody around them, every coach, every player, every trainer, all of them had to be vaccinated in order to get into the bubble. That's why Kyrie Irving wasn't allowed to play for the Brooklyn Nets, because he refused to get vaccinated. And so the NBA would not let him play. And I think now Kyrie Irving has been somewhat validated for the stance that he took. I wonder if he will get back pay for all those games he lost and wasn't being paid because he was suspended by the NBA for not wanting to get the vaccine. I hope he would consider filing a lawsuit about that. Now, New York City Mayor Eric Adams claimed earlier this year that his administration would not rehire employees who had been fired over the vaccine. Really? I think the Supreme Court had something else to say, brother. Okay. The New York City fired roughly 1,700 employees for being unvaccinated after the city adopted a vaccine mandate under former mayor Bill de Blasio. So Bill de Blasio is one of these people who was out there virtue signaling about COVID at the beginning of the pandemic. I remember very well in 2020, him and Nancy Pelosi and all these other people were out there. At first, they said there was nothing to be afraid of. If you can remember, Bill de Blasio kept New York City schools open late up until March and deep into March. And even after most cities in the country were closed, Bill de Blasio kept his open. And then he decided to go really hard in the paint over the vaccine. Now, many of those people who were fired were police officers and firefighters. So you want to talk about really shooting yourself in the foot here? You got two of the most important first responders, people who are literally saving lives in an era where crime was going up, because crime went up during the pandemic, shot up during the pandemic, drastically during the pandemic. And as that's happening, as there's riots and fires breaking out and stores are being robbed and people are being assaulted and shot and killed on the streets, New York starts firing police officers and firemen. Make it make sense. FDNY, Uniformed Firefighters Association President Andrew Ansbro, and Uniformed Fire Officers Association President Lieutenant James McCarthy condemned Adams earlier this year after the mayor allowed an exception to the vaccine mandate for athletes and performers, even as firefighters were still being fired over their status. Wow, that is horrific. That is horrific. The pair called on the city to expand the exception to all New Yorkers. But it just goes to show you, once again, Eric Adams has been a clownish mayor. He's been indicted for being corrupt. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised. All these big city mayors have really been exposed through COVID. And virtually all of them have been voted out. I told you last week about Shane Thau from Oakland and London Breed from San Francisco. They got voted out. Brandon Johnson is done, son, in Chicago. I just can't see him winning re-election. He's done. And so this was one of the things that exposed all these people. Let me get, I was just about to get the caller too. Call back, caller. I was just about to go to you, but that's okay. I could go to this next story. The Bay Area. We just talked about San Francisco and Oakland. Well, the Bay Area transit workers who were fired for refusing to get the COVID vaccine are getting more than $1 million each. No, that calls for a celebration. Money. Yes, money. They are getting $1 million each. $1 million each. Rail transit officials in the Bay Area of California have been ordered to pay more than $7 million to transit workers who were fired because they refused to get the COVID vaccine years ago. The District Court for the Northern District of California sided with 6 former San Francisco Bay Area rapid transit workers who had refused to get the vaccine for religious purposes. The BART, which is the Bay Area Rapid Transit, the BART, was ordered to pay the group more than $7.8 million, with each individual receiving between $1.2 and $1.5 million. Wow. The Pacific Justice Institute, which represented the transit workers in the trial, said in a statement on October 24th, hold on, caller. The Institute, a law firm representing the 6 former employees since 2022, said that the 8-person jury deliberated for 2 days this week before returning the verdict and awarding the employees the compensation. They also determined that Bart had failed to prove that it suffered a undue hardship by denying accommodation to the ex-employees in this case. On October 23rd, the jury found that the 6 employees met the burden of showing that there was a conflict between their religious beliefs and Bart vaccine mandate, which was implemented in 2021. According to the law firm, the jury also agreed with the figures that the plaintiff had provided for lost wages that they had suffered after losing their jobs. The jury then added $1 million each to those figures. The firm said, describing the verdict as a legal earthquake. Wow, let me get this caller. Hello, caller.
Hey, Scott.
What's up?
Look, man, you bringing back a lot of memories.
Oh, yes.
Listen to me, man. Before this COVID-19 mess came in, my African doctor had told me, she said, Cleve, it's a COVID coming in, and they're going to be trying to get everybody to take a shot. You know that COVID-19 shot?
Yeah.
She said, Cleve, don't do it. All I'm telling all my patients, just do 2 paper aspirin a day. You know, I was all around people with COVID-19 in Mississippi, and I didn't even know it. And those 2 paper, and to this day, I still haven't had that shot, just 2 paper aspirin a day. She said, all it is nothing but blood clot. And to keep the blood running thin, just 2 paper aspirin a day, 81 milligrams.
Wow.
Do you know all these years, I never took that shot. I was around people, but my blood can't run thin. And to this day, I still haven't taken it.
Wow. That's
so all I'm saying, that African, all I'm getting at is that black lady, that African doctor that was treating me, I put it like this, man. I'm sorry that she left. I wish that she was still here. But I do her advice. I just, look, man, it's been over 8 years. I still just do the 2 paper aspirin a day.
Wow.
Let's keep the blood running thin. That's
yes,
the way she explained to me. Look, and another thing about this COVID-19 shot. The way it was explained to me, the pharmaceutical company, they messed up. They just giving out some mess to try to get money back, but they know that it don't stop people getting no COVID-19. But what a person can do is keep their blood running thin by doing 281 milligram paper aspirin a day. That's what I've been doing forever. That's all I can say.
Well, thank you for calling, brother.
Oh.
It's all good. Well, I mean, look, there was a lot of research show vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc. That's all I've ever taken. Vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, keep my levels high. I just came from the doctor a few months ago. They said everything was good. I really started taking my health a lot more serious during the pandemic. I started exercising a lot more, getting on the treadmill, bought a total gym, because I couldn't go out and walk anymore because all the city was shut down. I had to stop walking because, like I said earlier, I used to love walking around the city, and then the pandemic happens, I can't go outside. So what are you sitting in the house doing? Eating. And that's what I was doing at the early part of the pandemic. Sitting in the house, eating, can't go for a walk, can't go nowhere. So I started getting on the treadmill, get on my total gym, get my vitamin C, my vitamin D, my zinc, take care of it. And this disease really, COVID, and the reason that it affected America so much, if you look at the data, Americans are so unhealthy. We are. We just talked about last week about all the additives that are in our food, cereal. We're seeing kids with diabetes and all kinds of diseases that used to be for old people. You have kids walking around with gout and diabetes and high blood pressure, hypertension. What is going on with 12-year-olds walking around with these things? So we had a lot of people who are sick in this country. And if I'm not mistaken, the average person who died of COVID had 3 or 4 other comorbidities. We're a country full of people with comorbidities. And a lot of it goes back to what we eat and how unhealthy our lifestyles are. You can't be sedentary either. You got to get up and move. You got to walk. You got to, eat healthy. Try to lessen the amount of additives and preservatives and all these dyes, these food dyes that they put in all the food that we know now is banned in much of Europe. It's one of the reasons why one of the few things I support about the Trump administration coming in is he said he was going to let Robert F. Kennedy go crazy on the Robert F. Kennedy Jr., not the father that we just talked about a few minutes ago, but the son, go crazy on food. The son wants to take all those additives that are banned in most of the world out of our foods. And he wants to take the fluoride, which is banned in most of the world, out of our water. And for that, the mainstream corporate media is attacking him because guess who they're owned by? The drug companies and by the food company. Well, you know, that's who their sponsors are. And so they're taking things that are pretty much common sense to the rest of the world. If you're in France, Germany, England, Canada, much of the world, these things are already banned. They won't even accept a lot of our food here from this country over into their countries. And yet we eat it every day because the FDA is bought off. Our media is bought off. And so that's a big part of the reason why we had so many COVID deaths, because COVID was a disease that attacked people who are either older people, generally speaking, or had a lot of comorbidities. And Americans are unhealthy because much of our lifestyles and the lifestyles that are being encouraged by people who are encouraging us to fill ourselves with prescription drugs and to be dependent on Ozempic and all these drugs for the rest of our lives. You can't stop taking it. You got to take it forever. You know what that means?
Money, money, money.
Yes, money, money, money. And so when the vaccine came out, I actually played the footage of the head of Pfizer talking in a shareholders meeting about how much money they were expecting to make off of COVID. It was one of the most morbid, disgusting things I've ever seen. Now, you weren't going to see that in the mainstream corporate media because they're funded by Pfizer. But I showed you, I played what the shareholders were saying about it. We're going to make a bunch of money. A lot of money. And so they are bought off politicians, are bought off corporations, force this on people. And so it's not just in New York or in the Bay Area. Another woman in Detroit who was fired for refusing to get the COVID vaccine, she won $12 million. $12 million. Yes. A federal jury in Detroit awarded more than $12 million to a former Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan employee who was terminated after declining to get a COVID-19 vaccination, citing religious discrimination. According to the verdict form, Lisa Domsky, who worked at the insurance company for more than 30 years as an IT specialist, she wasn't even a nurse. She was just an IT specialist. And they tried to force her to get this. Received $10 million in punitive damages against Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. The jury also awarded her approximately $1.7 million in lost wages and $1 million in non-economic damages. Newsweek contacted Blue Cross Blue Shield via email on Saturday for comment. They would not do so. Of course they wouldn't. They had nothing to say. Ms. Domsky claimed that she was a victim of religious discrimination after the company denied her request for an exemption from its 2021 vaccine policy. She maintained that the requirements conflicted with her Catholic beliefs. The court records showed that she worked 100% remotely during the pandemic and 75% remotely before COVID-19. So she wasn't even there at the office most of the time. And they still tried to force her to take it. You still think this wasn't about money? Huh? Come on. Her attorney, John Marco, even argued that without vaccination, she posed no risk to others due to her remote work arrangement. So she was working from home. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan implemented its vaccine policy in October 2021, requiring all of its employees to be fully vaccinated or to obtain a religious or medical accommodation. The company denied any discrimination during the trial, but of course they did it. The jury said they did it. In earlier court filings, the insurer questioned whether she sincerely held religious beliefs. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan has indicated that it is reviewing potential legal options, suggesting a possible appeal of the verdict. And again, expect more of this. There's going to be a lot more lawsuits from all of this. Forcing people to get something against their will that they didn't want to get. Lying about the efficacy of what they're forcing people to get. Just judging the data from all around the world. Yeah, there's going to be even more lawsuits. Expect a lot more lawsuits from a lot of people. And anybody who lost their job, I'd be exploring my options right now. Luckily for me, here at WLTH, they just said I had to wear a mask if I wasn't going to get vaccinated. I just said, fine, that's cool. It's all good. But all you other people who lost a lot of money behind this, I'd be exploring my options. Let me get this caller before I go to a break. Hello, caller.
Yeah, hey, Scott.
What's up?
The case that you were just talking about, you brought up what I was about to bring at the end, 8,000 appeals. She hasn't got one done yet. They're going through the appeal process on this. And there was two more cases out of Michigan. I pulled the paperwork on all of them. Blue Cross Blue Shield filed appeals. But one thing I will say, as a business owner, and I'm just going to keep it real, I only had like 3 people working for me. If you didn't get vaccinated, you couldn't come to my shop. I had 2 people quit. One guy quit for about a couple of months, then he came back to work because he got vaccinated. But if I'm a private business and you're working for me, it would be no different than me telling you, I don't want you to wear shorts for my business.
Nah. You're talking about forcing somebody to take a medical treatment. That's something totally different than telling them to wear shorts.
Well, rules is rules, and I feel if it's my business and I tell you this is what I want, you don't have to work for me. You can go work for somebody else.
Okay. Well,
all right, thank you.
All right, thank you for your call, brother. We'll see how that holds up. We'll see how that holds up. Like I said, I'm really interested to see Kyrie Irving from the Brooklyn Nets. He refused to get vaccinated. The NBA, I don't know if they suspended him or if they just withheld him or something. I would be interested to see what he's doing because he's in New York City too. And at some point, they did lift the ban for athletes in New York City. So maybe that's why he isn't thinking about it. But I would definitely keep an eye on Kyrie because that brother is conscientious. And he fights for what he believes in, and he was very adamant about not getting the shot. And the NBA is a private employer, so I mean, theoretically, we'll see how it comes down if he ever decided he wanted to challenge the NBA for all the money that he lost due to not being vaccinated. All right, folks, when we come back, we're gonna talk about those 3 little words: sex, S-E-X. Cover up the little one's ears. We'll be right back after these.